Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm going to tell you the main reasons I think Robert Kiyosaki is wrong. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. So look, I have read a ton of finance books. I've talked to many professionals. I worked in wealth management early in my career. I've been an avid investor most of my life, okay? And I've gone through a long journey to build to where I am today. And one of the greats, I think we all know his name is Robert Kiyosaki. And I'm not going to bash him for all that he says, because some of what he says is accurate. In fact, I think his cash flow quadrant is a fantastic concept. I think his encouragement to invest in real estate and passive income investment types is fantastic. But he hits on two things pretty frequently that are just absolutely wrong. And the one more so than the next. The biggest one and why he's wrong, I'll tell you later. But for now, let's start with the small one. The small one is he more or less thinks of things that you pay for as potentially liabilities. And for the most part, I agree. If you take out a loan for a car, that is going to hurt your cash flow. That's a liability. If you have student debt, while it can be a good debt, depending, it's again a liability because you're paying out of pocket, not earning any cash flow from that. But the one that I disagree with, and I'm gonna go on about this in a second, but talks about owning a house as a liability. From a cash flow standpoint, he's right. Frankly, you're paying every month out of pocket to a house. Now, he's wrong because, I think if you're someone that is going to be in a place for 5, 7, 10 years, you'll want to do the calculation. But my guess is if you're buying a house under $750,000, you probably do want to own. Now, again, this is market to market. A lot of things go into this. You don't want to buy the biggest house in the neighborhood. You don't want to buy a house that's more than 2 times the average price in a market. And there's a variety of other parameters, right? Buying good schools, low crime, all that. But generally speaking, if you have a family or you're by yourself and you're going to be in a house for at least 4 or 5 years, you're better off buying the property than you are renting somewhere else. Now, again, a lot of things matter in that case. If you're in the Bay Area, if you're in New York, if you're in markets that have crashed recently, doesn't apply. But that's why I said under 750. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, and this is the big one. Okay, and again, I'm going to give you one thing that I love of Kiyosaki and where I think he's spot on. But this one is really interesting. So he constantly talks about the idea that wealthy people don't work for money. And again, I generally somewhat agree, but there's a lot in there that is wrong, okay? What's in there that is wrong is that not everyone is given a ton of wealth to just simply invest and have those investments produce income, okay? So what we have to do is, most of us have to work to build wealth. We're not gonna just quit our job, go out and start a business that we don't know if that works whether or not, and then just see our assets plummet. That's too risky. The right way to do it is start working, do your job, W-2, and begin to allocate 10 and 15, maybe 20 hours a week to a side hustle, to a side job, to a new business venture, something that you can at least dabble in to see if it's possible. And then once you get to a point where your income is, relatively enough to start making moves and then, make investments happen, then you start investing in income producing assets. And at some point, all that compounds, the side hustle compounds enough for you to replace your job. Then you become someone who works less for money, right? And that's the thing. He's just talking about quit your job, don't work for money. That's nonsense. You have to work to be able to produce income, to save, to then invest in assets. So it's a journey. So I think the assumption that you can just simply not do that is ridiculous. We all have to work to some extent, unless you're really rich, to save money, make the right investments, and then over time, you're able to do that. Now, the third point that I promised you all, and I think he's spot on here, is that the cash flow quadrant is the way to look at the financial picture. It is about moving from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant, becoming an investor, becoming a business owner, and then driving down your revenues, well, I guess your net profits, by expenses that you can somewhat use for your personal life, but that are still materially for your business, right? So again, example is you buy a new car, well, never new, but you buy a used car and you buy it for the business, but really, less than half the time you're using it for your personal life. Okay, so a way to couple both strategies. My point is this: cash flow quadrant, fantastic. The idea that owning a home is a liability, not always accurate. But the idea that we should not work for money is ridiculous. Every day we wake up, we work to make more money, whether it is our own business, whether it is managing our assets. So he's frankly just pitching an idea so that you can tag on to his clickbait to watch his courses. So if you like what you heard, comment below. I'm really curious to get your take and when you think of Robert Kiyosaki. Also, be sure to subscribe because all my subscribers get access to off-market deals, reports, and a number of other invites that we do each year. So looking forward to the next one.